In part 1 of Fishing Follow-Up on Small Streams, we looked at your setup, flies, approach, and the need for great casting and line control. Now let's look at the water you need to focus on to catch trout the anglers just upstream of you might have missed. Let's start at the tail out of the first pool. Chances are that unless a hatch has begun since the other anglers cleared out, the tail out fish are spooked and cowering for cover in the heart of the pool, and in turn the fish in the heart of the pool are a little put off. It's worth a 3-cast prospect left, center, and right on the tail out just in case, but the odds are low anywhere near the shallow tail. But if there's an outturned undercut at the tail out, you might find a missed fish. Look along the bank. If there's 6 inches of water and a dark line that disappears back under the grass, there's likely a trout that lives there. Best put on a larger dry and maybe a small tungsten beadhead and cast adrift to ride just kissing those grass tips. You might also look to a small lightly weighted streamer like a microbugger and dead drift it along that same edge. Fishing a light streamer as a dead drift dropper to a terrestrial works very well. One of the toughest spots of the pool is the back eddy on the opposite side of the stream. In this case, there's a distinct tee to the current and a long back eddy along an undercut grassy bank. The only way to work this is to walk all the way around, walking slowly and staying low out of sight of the fish. You'll have to then get to the head and remain low and work your way back upstream along that edge of the eddy. Those grassy undercuts are gold, and while not often loaded with trout, a good brown or rainbow can live there. Once back to where you began, now you can work the head bucket of your original side and then take on the main incoming drop-off. The main inflow on the buckets either side is where you'll likely catch follow-up trout. The water's faster and there's usually more than one trout feeding and competing for drift food. A 3-foot dropper or light indicator system with double tungsten nymphs is the best way to fish this shelf. You best let the nymph drift through the pool as well. If there are several trout holed up, you might get a take on those small tungsten nymphs down deep a foot off the bottom. These pools are quite hit and miss in follow-up situations because deep active fish can turn off and on quite easily. If you get a few soft takes, scale down and fly in tippet size until you catch trout or whatever action you had dies. In moving out of the pool, the absolute need to be able to repetitively cast drag-free drifts along structure is paramount. Immediately look laterally for subtle undercuts. Let's hope that the anglers just upstream are pool junkies and have walked past the undercuts. You only need 6 inches of water under a shaded, broken undercut. Always work your way along any change in depth as tight as you can to those grasses and any willow branches jutting out from shore. These subtle undercut pockets and troughs are your biggest ally today. It's one of the best things you can do is find little out-of-the-way spots with fast water to prospect and put your flies in there. I just prospected with a squala stone and a terrestrial moth, and I had a whoosh, and I missed the fish. Normally, if the fella upstream, the 2 guys upstream today weren't ahead of me, I know that I could rest that for 2-3 minutes and that fish would come back. Knowing that they're ahead of me, I bet you I don't see that fish again. If you come to a riffle and you're on a rainbow trout stream, the hidden spots are the shallow troughs and hidden depth changes in amongst the rocks. Look for those color depth changes and work these with a dry dropper with a small tungsten nymph or a dry streamer dropper, something different or subtle. Troughs along in-stream wood are great places. A reach mend into the slack eddies along shore to buy 2 extra seconds in these pockets can buy you a fish most others miss. Maybe the other anglers didn't spook these fish too much, or maybe the trout hid in the wood and you rested the water long enough to let them come back out. A cast to the top side of stumps or root balls will normally have a fish feeding, but I'd guess that the other anglers spooked them off these shallow lies. Give a good cast 3 feet upstream and a foot outside the pillow anyway. Lead the fish out so they think they're in control and undisturbed. Browns love those woody troughs. When we fish follow-up, we can't rely on easy fish. We might find a hatch and rising trout, but when we don't, we have to focus on the narrowest of structures and in-stream habitat. A lot of these small streams don't have high populations of trout, and each micro-habitat has to be worked well in order to maximize our odds. Even at that, if the stream has been repeatedly worked the past week, you'll likely have short or soft strikes and struggle to connect. If you keep working the out-of-the-way pockets, drifting flies within 3 or 4 inches of structure just inside the shore side of the seam, you'll get takes. Finding a few fish on these small streams is exciting, and we should be able to catch a few no matter how busy it gets.